Two of our favorite podcasts are crossing over every 2 weeks. Kate Achille of Up Next at Work and George LaRocque of WorkTech look at the tech, business, and people that impact our HR and WorkTech industry. It's a crosspod with a unique strategic lens on what's happening in our world. Enjoy!
Hi, Kate.
Hey, George.
Welcome back. Up next, I think
WorkTech.
number 5, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
And
same.
yeah, it's good I like getting ready for this. I feel like we should record our sessions getting ready and just use those.
I don't know that we would be allowed to, but
I don't think we can.
Yeah. Although people might want to listen to that more. So
Yeah, that's probably more interesting, even more interesting.
yes.
Well, let's get into it. So we have a few things. The first of which is, I think, what everybody's struggling with, trying to get their head around, especially in our world, which is the labor market. And we're still talking about the lack of good information in the labor market. It feels like, so we've got a few things that we, uncovered around the labor market. First was we've got the ADP National Employment Report, which I don't know. Do you agree that it seems like that's kind of the next best thing to what doesn't exist, which is today's the first Friday of December. And once again, we don't have a jobs report. So ADP seems like the next best source. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, arguably ADP is the most reliable and longest standing, I would say, labor market data we have right now. And
Yeah.
I would say Lightcast probably comes in second.
Yeah. It's a different kind of, you're right.
Different kind of data. But if people are looking for sources right now, I would point them to ADP and Lightcast, because a lot of what's out there I'm struggling with, I'll say.
Yeah, me too.
You heard my rant earlier, so.
Yeah, and I'm reading right off of ADP's release about this. So while the headline is private sector employment shed 32,000 jobs in November, annual pay was up 4.4%, so not great. But where they get their data, it's anonymized weekly payroll data, more than 26 million private sector employees in the U.S., and they capture over 15 million individual pay change observations each month. So, when you think about like sample size and like just the veracity of the data, it's a massive data set so the big headline things aren't great, but then there are other headlines. So, from Yahoo Finance, the labor market is not going to give any straight answers anytime soon. And this is all about the lack of the government jobs data, which they consider the best market gauge. That's what economists use. I would say it's probably the leading data point or source that they use. They do use other things like the ADP report as well. And this is just, the whole story is about how it's throwing a wrench in the gears of every economist. And speaking of economists, The Economist put out an article, though, saying, American job losses are overstated. And it's, and it is, this sort of sums up everything for me right now, because it's like the very bad news, not great news, and then people telling me that it's not quite as bad as we think it is. And it's just confusing. I don't know what your take is on all this.
A few things. It's very confusing. I think it's very confusing for the average person. I'm also really starting to wonder about The Economist as a publication. I think they're having a few challenges inside the organization. I know they just lost one of their top editorial resources. So I think there might be a few challenges happening inside of there.
Yeah.
And I know we spoke about a different Economist article on our last episode.
That's right.
And whether or not it may have been AI generated. So not sure about this one. But, I did look at the data sources at this particular article about whether or not job losses are overstated. And, they pointed to some fairly credible, the Federal Reserve. I would like to think we could trust the Federal Reserve. They pointed to the Challenger Day and Christmas report, which is one of the ones that I do take umbrage with, and macro bond. So there's that. The other thing I'll say is, in terms of the confusion, I think it's creating a little bit of cognitive dissonance for the average person, because on the one hand, we're hearing about layoffs. And then on the other hand, people are hearing that the stock market is doing really well. And most people can't square that because they don't understand why one is doing well and the other isn't. Not everybody has the understanding of how how they don't operate together.
Right.
And I think that is creating a lot of confusion for folks out there, especially people who haven't lived through mass layoffs before, or I should say worked maybe through
Right.
mass layoffs before.
Yeah.
I guess 2020 is probably our most recent
Hmm.
period of mass layoffs. And, that was really exceptional circumstances. Most of us have never lived through a pandemic before, since the previous one was 1918. So, if you weren't in the workforce in 2008, this is all really confusing for a lot of people. So I think the fact that the media is wrestling with what's going on and that we don't have good data and we don't have reliable sources is making this all the worse for people,
Yeah.
because there is no North Star right now. There is nowhere to look. And everyone is saying something different, especially depending on where you get your news from.
Right.
That's just an unfortunate fact right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the stock market and, the sort of on the ground economy have always been, not directly tied, but the stock market was always a pretty good barometer for things to come. And, it didn't tell you the weather, but it told you sort of, what was going to happen or general condition. The thing now, and I'm not an expert on this, but it's generally understood that there are 10 companies in the tech and AI world that are creating almost like a false positive signal and sort of, pulling the economy along. And it's NVIDIA, Meta, all the big techs.
Yep.
And we've never
Apple.
had that before. Yeah, we've never had that at this extreme. And because it is true that in my travels, I talk to a lot of vendors every day, and depending on where their tech is being used, meaning like what industry and what market segment, it's a mixed bag. Not everybody's doing poorly. Nobody's doing as well as they'd like, but it's lumpy. You never know who I'm going to get when I get on a call, but it's so uncertain right now. Nobody can really plan. So yeah, it's a very confusing time. But I find the other point, there's where you get your news, and there's also, do you have a dog in this hunt? Because if you're selling AI, you believe all the hype. And if you're an investor, you might not think the bubble is, this AI bubble is as poignant as everybody makes it sound. So these are smart people making strong arguments. So it's hard to figure out, what's up and what's down on sometimes. I don't know. It's challenging.
Yeah,
It's
I
challenging.
do think it's going to be, again, I've heard conflicting reports on
Yeah.
when we're going to get a sense of clarity, or when we're going
Uh-huh.
to start to see things maybe make a little bit more sense. There are some people who are saying end of Q1 2026. Um, there might be a little clarity, I guess, because
Okay.
that's the only word I can think of right now, around at least what the rest of next year is going to look like. And then there are other people who are saying, it might take until the beginning of 2027 before, this ship really starts to right itself.
Hmm.
So I think people really need to sit tight, but I'm hoping I believe we're supposed to get some data from BLS on, what is it, December 16th? They're gonna,
Right. Right.
yeah,
That sounds right. Yeah.
yeah. So stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah. Speaking of, changes and the impact of these things, another story that jumped out at us, Jill Barth at HR Executive had shared in one of her articles, this Gartner report that said ultimately, I guess the bright side is 7 new roles are emerging based on how as AI automates transactional HR work. 7 new roles are emerging that fundamentally reshape what HR does and how it creates values. But on the downside, Gartner predicts that 60% of HR tasks will be completed through agents by 2030, which that doesn't bring, that's not a comforting data point for most. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, some of the roles that Jill pointed to are, things like titles like chief of staff we
Uh-huh.
hadn't previously seen, community managers. Some of these titles are titles that haven't, they're kind of being invented over, in the last few years. We've also seen obviously chief AI officer is, I mean, not all
Yeah.
of these are at the executive level, but we're seeing more science roles. Obviously, there are whole new fields that are opening up. So yes, AI is inevitably going to take over tasks and jobs. There's no denying that. It's already happening. We know that's part of the reason some of these layoffs have been taking place this year, but new jobs will be created at some
Yeah.
point. We just don't know what they're going to look like, and it might take a while for us to figure that out. Is
Yeah.
again, this we're in this very weird liminal state, and as humans, change is uncomfortable, especially when there's no one in charge. I think we all look for an adult when we're
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but the problem is we are the adults. And, there's no one to lead us. And so we're all figuring this out in real time. And I think that's a lot of what we're experiencing right now is we are really all in this together. And there's no one person who can make it better.
Yeah.
So that's the discomfort that I think we're all experiencing. But I think HR is obviously it's a very resilient function. It has to be being human driven. So I think one of the other interesting titles that popped out at me was consensus
Oh my
facilitators.
God. That was going to be
Yeah.
like, I thought all the roles sounded pretty cool, like the
Mm-hmm.
titles anyhow.
Yeah.
And that one I was like, I do not want to be anywhere near that job. Like,
No, no, because
but the
it says
description doesn't
yeah.
sound like what the title sounds like.
No.
It's expert mediators who create frameworks for rewards and well-being aligned to organizational strategy. Like, that's like, okay, that sounds more interesting than like consensus facilitator. Just sounds like the person in the meeting trying to get everybody to say yes or no in unison.
Like the traffic cop, essentially.
Right. Yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
that was my thought. My big concern, so I really believe that, to your point, HR is resilient. We've been through major technological transformations as humans before, and everything adjusts. We adjust. We adjust, the economy adjusts, jobs adjust, everything. The problem here, I think, is the pace, the speed at which this is happening. And I think what I was saying this week was that it's happening to people, not with people. So that's the concern. And I think there's more. So when I look at these 7 roles, I think, well, we need education. We need, like they throw around the term reskilling and upskilling. And those are just like, nobody really gets what that is unless you're in HR or in L&D. I think we just need education. We need some patience. We need as fast as the technology's moving, we need leaders to step up. And I think we need some organizations to set a new bar, to somebody to come out as the example of, we didn't lay everybody off. We created this track for people to grow with the AI, and look how successful we are because of it. And because right now everybody's going on their quarterly results, going to the board and looking at their earnings and making decisions in that way. And yeah, we implemented AI and we're able to cut this headcount off the balance sheet because of it. And it's a slippery slope to
We laid 4,000 people off and goosed our earnings. Look at us.
Yeah.
Aren't we amazing? Yeah, no, but to your point, yeah, I think it's the speed is really is part of the problem because yeah, how do you upskill and reskill when we don't know what we need to upskill and reskill? Because by this time next year, you and I could be talking about something completely different. Like right now we're talking about, GPTs and things like that. My crystal ball is a little cloudy at the moment. So
Yeah.
perplexity could be gone by
Right.
this time next year. No idea.
But
Could be something completely new.
Yeah.
This whole
I
landscape.
saw
could
an
shift.
article in the past week basically saying that OpenAI is the Yahoo of the internet age. Like, everybody thinks it's the thing, it's done, it's over, that's it. And we don't talk about Yahoo anymore. We talk about, although I did have an article from Yahoo Finance.
You know what? It's the Ask Jeeves OpenAI is the Ask Jeeves.
God,
Because
Ask
no one
Jeeves.
remembers Ask Jeeves. And no one, poor Jeeves, he's gone.
Yeah. There are a lot of people
He's
right now
Mr.
asking
Belvedere.
perplexity, what is Ask Jeeves? Mr.
And now they're asking what
Belvedere.
Mr. Belvedere is, because I am whipping out some very dated references.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, if you haven't worked through the workforce, if you haven't been in the workforce long enough to know what
Yeah.
some of these references are, I
Yeah.
am showing my age.
But you know what? I think what's going to take care of this is my segue, is some regulation.
Boy, do we need that. And listen, I am not the person to be like, yes, we need more laws. But honestly, if you are, and I can't imagine that there are any like truly young people listening to this who are like thinking about what to be when they grow up. But if you are a young person thinking about what to be when you grow up, you might want to consider going to law school because AI regulation, that is going to be a hotbed, at least in the next few years.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And the folks that create the regulations, like if the economy wasn't confusing enough, that, we're going to have that for a while. Now, along with the, brought on by the onslaught of, or in large part, or in much of it brought on by the onslaught of AI, now we've got this duel that's shaping up between federal regulation and state regulation. And nobody seems to think that the federal government's going to be able to pass regulation. Like, we're not going to have like the EU kind of, over many countries or over many states here kind of regulation, but they're trying. And at the same time, we've got an onslaught of state regulations, and it looks like there's going to be a battle for that. A duel is what one law firm had called it. Dueling federal and state directives on AI hiring technology bring compliance challenges for employers. And that is an understatement.
I mean, listen, I know some states are already a little ahead of the game here. I know New York and California have been on this for a while. I think even Texas has some on the books, which was surprising to me.
Yeah, but Texas's regulation is, as long as you're not breaking the law or causing personal harm, then like all bets are off. That's what I read in this article from HR Dive.
Sounds about right.
So yeah,
TREGA or whatever the acronym is. TREGA.
Yeah.
They could have gone, and I feel like they could have found a better acronym there. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it would have been nice if we could have gone the EU route years ago at this point. I think we're a little behind the eight ball here, as they say, but I think we're definitely overdue here on putting AI regulation in place. And so, whoever gets to it first is kind of my thinking, but no, actually, I'm taking that back. I think the state should move, and they should move quickly.
They seem to be the only ones able to do it. And we've had that. This has been the way employment law has worked. We've had some federal guidelines largely directed toward federal contractors, which sort of sets the tone. Mm-hmm. And then some more broad, I guess right now it's not as prevalent as it has been, but like, equal employment opportunities and so forth. But anyhow, I don't want to get into that, but it's...
Oh, they took all that down anyways.
I know. But we've had sort of guidelines, and then the states really direct. They have their own compliance laws, and it's always been a thing. So the argument is having to have 50 different, analyses of how to hire. And the answer is always go to the highest watermark, go there. But until we can do it at a federal level, I don't see an alternative.
Yeah.
So I don't see it coming.
States will have to self-govern.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's but yeah, we need something because again, the AI is moving so quickly that if we don't start to put some controls in place.
Some thoughtful regulation.
Regulation.
Take us to industry news.
Yeah. So industry news, obviously we are in December at this point. So It is the race to the end, race to the finish here. So anybody who's looking to make an announcement, the window is closing. And I say this as your friendly PR person. If you were trying to make an announcement in the month of December, there is not much time left. So yeah, we did see a slew of news come out this week. Two specific industry announcements jumped out at me. The first of which came from ServiceNow and their acquisition of Veza. Veza.
Veza. So however
Visa
that
sounds
that's
wrong,
yeah, right, right.
everywhere you want to be. Anywho, so this is a non-human identity management provider. And the reason this jumped out at me is, obviously it has been the year of agents, and we've been talking a lot about AI here. And, ServiceNow explicitly said that they are going to be using this in both their IT service management, their customer service offerings, and their HR. So I thought that was interesting because we haven't really talked about the cybersecurity side of agentic AI yet. So that's why I thought this one was interesting.
It's a major issue. I talk to a lot of the platform players in all the categories, and they're all this has quickly become like one of the top issues for all of their customers. And it's whether it's because of identity, the issues of just cost spiraling. We've got all the agents and AI pushing, you're spending ad dollars, you're paying for clicks, and there's fraudulent traffic there, and you're paying for that. Or the individuals who come through, they get hired. And if you're a government contractor, there have been stories about bad actors from other countries, like North Korean bad actors who are getting access to sensitive data. Also, bad actors just getting paid. It's just good old fashioned fraud.
Yep.
And then you've got individuals getting, is it the person that we hired? Is it, there's so much here. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be, like the Wild West for a little while until we see more, of these solutions come into place. And this foundational technology is sort of where we need to see it. We'll have a lot of, like Greenhouse did that thing with Clear.
Yep.
And they're doing other things, and there are other solutions for identity in the hiring process as an example.
Yeah.
But you still need that sort of device level.
This is on the foundation. Yeah, that's on the candidate side, really. This is on the governance.
Yeah.
That's more, that's why this was interesting to me, is because the fraud narrative that we've been hearing all year is about how do you prevent the candidates from, the AI applicants and all of that. We haven't been hearing about what these platforms are doing to protect themselves so much versus blocking, the candidates.
It's a really good,
that was why this one struck me. So, okay. Moving on to our friends at Findem.
Yes.
So we had talked about Findem, I think it was back in October when they had raised some money. And this week they actually made two announcements. One was an acquisition, but the other one, one I actually found more interesting. And this is a partnership that they announced with the Anita B organization, and it is the launch of the AnitaB.org talent network built in partnership with Findem. And so basically they said in a year marked by more than 150,000 tech layoffs and ongoing inequities in hiring, this new talent network connects recruiters with vetted, diverse technologists while giving job seekers unprecedented visibility into opportunities across the industry. So I thought this was really cool. Anita B is a very interesting organization. They are behind the Grace Hopper celebration, which is like the biggest event for diverse technologists, I believe, in the world. When I worked at Verizon, it was like a huge deal there. We're always sending people to speak and attend and all of that. So I thought this was really cool to find them, that they're get involved with Anita B. And also, again, going back to the layoff story.
Yeah.
If anything, maybe this will help some folks find jobs right now.
Yeah, I thought on its face on the report, it was cool in the sense that, find them as a sourcing tool. And if they're creating a talent community, a talent pool, and I'm sure this probably wouldn't be the last one they would create, but given the type of talent, the sort of underserved talent that Anita B would serve, I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And then when you educated me that they're behind the Grace Hopper thing, it's like, oh, this is a massive, this could, they make, in their announcement, they talk about growing from a current of 15,000 to 100,000 profiles. And it's like, okay, we'll see. And it's like, oh, okay, no, they can definitely do that.
They got this.
Yeah.
They got this. I'm confident.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's, it is really interesting. And, it's good to see, someone in our space just, this is a new idea. It's something fresh. It's innovative, and it's a good thing. That's good to see. Really good to see.
It's a good thing, like Martha Stewart always says.
Yeah.
Maybe
we should have ended with this one. Maybe that's the one we should have ended, but we didn't. We have one more.
We got one more for you. So by now, I think a lot of folks who are listening probably saw the Business Insider article about what's happening over at SHRM. And the Business Insider article that I'm referencing talked about the cultural issues inside SHRM as an organization and referenced a Marilyn Monroe-esque birthday celebration and, pending lawsuit against, the organization and a few other things. But earlier this week on Monday, December 1st, there was a follow-up piece that Business Insider posted that I don't know if as many people saw it. And it was about what's happened now that the trial has started. And this one jumped out at me because apparently, okay, let me back up here. So the case that's taking place is a racial discrimination and retaliation case against SHRM by a former employee. And so SHRM has filed, asking that they not be, where is the exact language in this article? I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, the plaintiff. Yeah.
The plaintiff, what is it? They requested
right under the bullets at the top.
Right under the bullets. So
I want you to get all the glory for that. You found it, and I don't want to read it.
They argued that the plaintiff shouldn't be allowed to portray the organization as an expert in HR. Okay, so we could stop right there, but they're saying it because they don't want any evidence or argument that they're a specialist in HR best practices, because doing so would improperly hold SHRM to a higher standard than other employers. So I understand that second part. I understand the rationale of the argument, how a lawyer would lawyer that one. The judge did not agree, though. The judge denied this request, saying that SHRM is an expert in HR. And, they have 340,000 members. SHRM basically writes the standards of HR.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lawsuit. It could, a decision will be made. So but this argument, it's just so constant. It's just always not the best look at, and that's the thing. Every time this stuff comes up, it's like, I know that it's a legal argument, but it's going to be, this is a very, very visible organization. And
it's a master class in what not to do, especially because I don't know if you read the last paragraph of the article. Because the last paragraph of this article shares that about 2 weeks after this decision was handed down about why this argument doesn't hold, they published a guide about how to conduct a workplace investigation and said investigators should focus on being impartial to gather and consider relevant facts and should not push investigations in any particular direction. Mic drop. So, to your point, George, not the best.
Right.
So,
right.
I would encourage anybody, though, with an interest in what's going on to continue to follow Business Insider's coverage, because Sarah Needleman, who wrote this article, is an excellent journalist, and Business Insider also recently dropped their paywall. So you can definitely follow along over there if you're interested in this one. So
yeah, well, that was a week.
For the end of the year, I would say so. Sometimes things quiet down, but I guess not this year.
Right.
So that brings us to our pit and our peak.
Our pit and our peak. All right. So my pit is not a specific incident or item, but more of a condition right now that I think some of what we've talked about represents, which is every day I am slowed down, annoyed, and frustrated by I'll say misinformation and disinformation. So, being misinformed or, the other being, outright, more political on the disinformation front. And I think we talk about the labor market and we talk about perspectives that skew the conversation, vendors looking to make a buck with their data, and it's not just, I think there's an old saying that I wish people would take heed of more. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. And I wish it's not going to get any better anytime real soon, but that's been really bothering me this week on a lot of fronts. So that's
I concur, and I would say my pit is related because it's all these layoffs. I would really like to see us get to a better place in the hiring market, and I would like to, especially for the holiday season, and I would like to see folks be able to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
This time of year.
It's I remember seeing some stuff before the American Thanksgiving holiday about layoffs happening right up until, right up before. It's a hard time of year for that.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is being tied to AI, and some of that I think is a smokescreen. I think it's easy for me as a CEO, right? If I'm a CEO to blame it on the AI and not the business's performance or, missing our forecast or whatever.
Yep.
But it's unfortunate.
Agreed.
Yep. All
All
right.
right. So what's our peak?
Peak. I had written my peak down and you actually mentioned it along the way here today, which is with all of that, the resilience that I see at the same time every day. So it's not all bad news and not everybody is doing poorly. And you mentioned HR is resilient. They have to be. It's a people business. And the people that I talk to on the vendor side every day, also very resilient. I think it makes me feel optimistic. It gives me some great optimism. I'm talking to some of these entrepreneurs and some of the seasoned executives that are doing cool things and finding ways to get some success out of this environment. So
mine is a little out there, but bear with me.
Okay.
So 2025 was, in numerology, it was a 9-year. So a 9-year is all about endings. And obviously we've seen a lot of endings this year. Layoffs are endings. And it was also the year of the snake in the Chinese zodiac.
Okay.
And so the snake is all about transformations.
All right.
So we've seen a lot of transformations. We've seen a lot of endings. I was looking at what 2026 is going to be about because I think we could all use a dose of hope. And so 2026 is a 1-year. So that's new beginnings. And it's also going to be the year of the horse. So the horse, obviously, if you think about the horse as an animal, it's a big, powerful animal. It comes galloping in. It brings a lot of power. And you can take that one step further because there's always an element tied to the animal. And so it's going to be a fire horse. So it's going to be a very powerful year. There's going to be a lot of energy behind it. And so for anybody who's looking for a little bit of inspiration, just know that in 2026, it's going to be all about new beginnings and bringing some very powerful new energy into the world. And so I hope you can use that little spark to maybe set a new intention.
Yeah, that's cool. It reminds me of what the philosopher Semisonic said. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
There we go. The prophet Semisonic. And if you don't know that song, please go look it up.
It's not a great song.
No, but it is a classic.
Yeah.
It is a classic.
Yeah. But I love the fire horse thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
I learned that. So cool.
Nice.
All right. Well, we did it again.
We'll
be
it.
Back sometime soon.
Thanks, Katie. All right.
Thanks.
Take
Have
care.
A good
Thanks,
one.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to or watching Up Next at WorkTech, brought to you by the Work Defined Podcast Network, the Devon Group, and WorkTech.